Hello friends, today we are going to continue chapter number 3, Cultural Heritage of India, Sculpture and Architecture, lecture number 4. Friends, up to now in this chapter we have discussed about the importance of cultural heritage of India. We discussed why this cultural heritage is important. We discussed about the meaning of sculpture and architecture work. We discussed what is sculpture. Sculpture, that means, here it is said, the word sculpture means when a sculptor is carving his feeling into any solid object with the help of hammer and chisel is known as a sculpture work. We discussed about the architecture. It is said architecture is both about, we can say, it is totally planning, designing and constructing of building and non-building materials. Friends, we discussed architecture is known as Vastu in Sanskrit language. In ancient time, the ancient architecture has made India stand into an incomparable position in the world. Friends, we discussed about the ancient town planning, in which we discussed the town was divided, the whole town was fortified. It was divided into 3 sections. The topmost part was reserved for the fort of the rulers, that is the citadel of the rulers. Upper part was for the administrative officers, and the lower part was for the common people. After that, we also discussed about Mohenjo-daro and its town planning. We discussed about how the Mohenjo-daro was found in the Rarka district, that is now in Pakistan. Friends, we discussed about the houses of Mohenjo-daro. We discussed about the roads of Mohenjo-daro and drainage system of Mohenjo-daro. We also discussed about the public building and the public bath of Mohenjo-daro in our previous lecture. Friends, today the topic that we are going to cover, that is, we are going to learn about some of the other ancient civilizations that has become very well known in the history. Let us learn about some of the well-known ancient civilizations like Harappan civilization, then Dholavira and Lothal. Let us start with the ancient civilization. Ancient civilization, that is Harappa. Let us start the ancient civilization, that is Harappan civilization. Friends, when we start learning about this, let us start with Harappan civilization. When we are talking about some of the main features of this Harappan civilization, here we say the region of Sapta-Sindhu river is a region. Here we said the region of Sapta-Sindhu river is a region of Indian culture. We can say, as we all know, that the Indian culture is flourished at the bank of Sapta-Sindhu river. Here it is said the region of this Sapta-Sindhu river is considered as well known for the Indian culture. The culture which developed here was known as Indus Valley Civilization. Friends, here it is said that the culture which developed here, that is on the banks of Sab-Sindhu river, was the region of Indian culture, and the culture which developed near the bank of the Sab-Sindhu river was known as Indus Valley civilization. Friends, we have already learned about this in the past in the 9th standard. The remains of Indus Valley civilization were found. If we talk about the remains of Indus Valley civilization were found from Rapar in Himalayan region, from Rapar in Himalayan region, then Alamgirpur, also the region that is Alamgirpur, and Meerut in UP, that is Uttar Pradesh, we can say. Then Kalibangan in Rajasthan, also Kalibangan in Rajasthan, and Lothal and Dwarka in Gujarat, etc. In Lothal, in Dwarka, in Gujarat, etc. Friends, here it said the remains of this Indus Valley civilization were found during the exploration war from, that is, Rapar in the Himalayan region, then Alamgir and Meerut in UP, Kalibangam in Rajasthan, and Lothal in Gujarat. Lots of remains were found, which shows the presence of this Indus Valley civilization. That clearly shows the presence of Indus Valley civilization. The remains were first found from Harappan. The remains were first found from Harappan. That is why it is known as Harappan civilization. That is why it is known as Harappan civilization. Here it is said the remains of this Indus Valley civilization were first found from Harappan, and that is why this Indus Valley civilization is also known as Harappan civilization, because the remains of this Indus Valley civilization were first found from Harappan. So friends, here we have clearly understood that this Indus Valley civilization was the region where the Indian culture started growing. Friends, here it is said copper and stone weapons as well as many other things. Copper and stone weapons as well as many other things were also found from these regions. Here it is said that copper and stone weapon as well as many such things were also found from this region. That is why these period is also known as Copper Stone Age. Friends, here it is said that as many weapons and other things that were made of copper and stones were found as a remains from these regions, and that is why this age was also known as Copper Stone Age, as the age of copper and stone. Town planning of Harappan was very systematic. The town planning of Harappan was very systematic. Its granaries and forts were remarkable. Even its forts and the granaries were remarkable. Then people of that age were fond of wearing ornaments. People of that age were fond of wearing ornament, and such remains also have been found. Friends, here it is said that the people of that time, that is during the Indus Valley civilization or Harappan time, the people were fond of wearing ornaments. Such remains were also found. Such ornaments were also found during the exploration work of this region. So, friends, this was the information about the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization. Now, let us understand about Dholavira. Now, friends, let us understand about Dholavira. When we are discussing about Dholavira, in the year 1990, if we talk about Dholavira, that was in the year 1990. Archaeological Survey of India, in the year 1990, Archaeological Survey of India surveyed the heap of ruins, of a huge and systematic ancient town. This town was contemporary. To Harappan civilization, and this town was contemporary to Harappan civilization and was found 2 kilometers away. This town was found 2 kilometers away from Dholavira village, and desert of Bachau, in the vast desert of Bachau Taluka, which was about 140 kilometers, away from Bhuj. That was located 140 kilometers away from Bhuj. Special task of excavation was carried out. Special task of excavation was carried out under the guidance of Ravindra Singh Bisar. Under the guidance of Ravindra Singh Bisar. Friends, here it is said, in the year 1990, Archaeological Survey of India, that is ASI, they surveyed the heap of the ruins. Heap means बहुत कुछ इकट्ठा किया हुआ, ढग जिसे बोलते हैं बहुत. The heap of the ruins means the remains of huge and systematic ancient town was found by the ASI. This town was contemporary. It was same like the Harappan civilization that was found 2 kilometers. This town was found 2 kilometers away from Dholavira village at Khadirbet. That was located in the vast desert of Bachau Taluka. That was about 140 kilometers away from Bhuj. Special task of this excavation work was carried out under the guidance of Ravindra Singh Bisar. Now let us understand about the features of this Dholavira. Friends, let us understand the features of Dholavira. Friends, if we talk about the features of Dholavira, it is said it is one of the 5. If we talk about Dholavira, it is one of the 5 largest Harappan sites. It is one of the 5 largest Harappan sites, and the most prominent, and it is also the most prominent archaeological sites in India. It is one of the most prominent archaeological sites in India, belonging to the Indus Valley civilization. That is belonging to Indus Valley civilization. Here it is said, it is also considered, as having been the grandest cities, of its time. Friends, here it is said it is also considered as having been the grandest cities of that time, means well-known cities and very important city of its time. This is one of the 5 largest Harappan sites and the most prominent archaeological sites of India, that is belonging to Indus Valley civilization. Here it is said the most striking feature, if we talk about the most striking feature of the city is that the most striking feature of the city is that all of its buildings are built with stones, that all of its buildings are built with stones, whereas most other, while we talk about the other Harappan sites, including Harappan itself and Mohenjo-daro, and also Mohenjo-daro are almost exclusively built of bricks. It is built of, said the most striking feature of this Dholavira is that the buildings were made of stones instead of bricks, while the other civilization, including Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, these all were made of bricks. Dholavira was made, these buildings were made of stones. Friends, here it is said the remains found here, like the palaces, the remains that are found here, like the palaces and the main walls, as well as the main walls of the town were painted with it. The town was also painted with white color. Even the towns, the walls were also painted with white color. Here it is said, such fortified walls made of clay stones. The fortified walls were made of clay stones and bricks. Encircling the town, encircling the whole town, suggests strong security. This suggests strong security measures that the people, security measures that the people of this civilization took. Friends, here it is said the remains that are found here where like palaces, the main wall were colored with white color, fortified walls were made around the town that were made of stone, bricks and clay. Such measures shows the security, the awareness about the security. So friends, these were some of the important features of Dholavira. Let us understand about Lothal now. Now about Lothal. When we talk about the ancient civilization of Lothal, here it is said Lothal is situated in Dwarka Taluka, which is, if we talk about this Dwarka, which is 18 kilometers away from the Gulf of Khambhat. Friends, here the location is given of Lothal. Lothal is situated in Dwarka Taluka, which is 18 kilometers from the Gulf of Khambhat. A huge dockyard was constructed. A huge dockyard where the ships are there. A huge dockyard was constructed to facilitate the ships. It was used to facilitate the ships in the time of high tides, at the time of high tides, at the lower eastern part of the town, of the lower eastern part of the town. Such dockyards, warehouses, etc. Such dockyard, warehouses, etc. proves that export and import used to take place at Lothal. These dockyards, these warehouses that were found as the remains from Lothal suggest that this Lothal might have been important for the export import during that time. These suggest that Lothal might have been, this suggests that Lothal might have been rich and prosperous, might have been rich and prosperous port of India. Through all this, we can assume that it might be a very important port which is rich and prosperous. So friends, this was the information about Lothal. Today you might have understood about the ancient civilization of Harappan civilization, Dholavira and Lothal. We will learn about another topic in our next lecture.